Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Coleman Albaugh, and here is my media analysis project. So, for this project, I chose to choose a character from the show Letterkenny. Letterkenny is a comedy show about a bunch of social groups in this rural Canadian town called Letterkenny. These groups are the Hicks, the Skids, and the hockey players, and mostly they just do like everyday normal life. And they kind of just like hang out on the farm where the Hicks work at, or they're at hockey games or whatever, as you would expect from Hicks and hockey players. So let's break down the character. The character I've chosen to talk about is Wayne. His role in the show is he's kind of like the unspoken leader of the Hicks group. They even call themselves the Hicks, and pretty much they do whatever Wayne does for the most part. He is also known in all of Letterkenny and in sort of like the neighboring towns as the toughest guy in Letterkenny, and he proves this relatively often by people showing up and they go, "Hey, who's the toughest guy in Letterkenny?" And they're like, "Oh, it's Wayne." And then they go fight, and he proves himself again to be the toughest guy in Letterkenny. Now, just looking at this, you would probably expect that he's sort of like an example of toxic masculinity, being a hick and also regularly getting into fights. But as I'm about to break down, we'll learn that there's actually a lot more to Wayne. So let's talk about his identities. He never explicitly states that he identifies as male. However, he does use he/him pronouns, so I'll be using those for the rest of this project. Um, Again, he never identifies as heterosexual. He never like straight up says it. But over the course of the show, he has multiple girlfriends, all of them identifying as female, and that's about as far as he goes with that. As I said, over the course of the show, he is in more than one relationship, but at the end of the show, where I'm talking about, he is in a serious monogamous relationship with a girl named Rosie. We know that Wayne is obviously white. He is from rural Canada. He doesn't really talk about his ethnic background a whole lot, though. And he's somewhere in his early to mid 30s. That's more of just like a guess from me because they never actually state how old he is, or any of the characters in this show, or even what year it takes place in. So let's break down Wayne's views on sexual double standard and get a little bit deeper into him than just his surface level. In a journal titled Exploring Heterosexual Adults' Endorsement of the Sexual Double Standard Among Initiators of Consensually Non-Monogamous Relationship Behaviors, it says that the sexual double standard is narrowing and that casual sexual acts are becoming more commonplace amongst both of the genders. It says both of the genders in the journal, despite the fact that obviously it is a spectrum, but for the sake of that reference, I'm saying both of the genders. So Wayne in the show, despite the fact that you would expect him to have probably more conservative views on a sexual double standard, actually proves himself multiple times to be more open-minded about this topic. There are multiple women in the show who talk about their sexual conquests and like activities and whatever, and despite the fact that he has numerous chances to like shame them or judge them or make any sort of negative comment, he never does. And he also, despite the fact that he also has multiple girlfriends and presumably has sex with these girlfriends, never brags about his own sexual activities. He keeps everything relatively private, but doesn't shame others for not doing the same, no matter their gender. So, pretty open-minded view on the sexual double standard. Let's talk about his views on gender roles in relationships. So, in a journal titled Emerging Adults' Expectations and Preferences for Gender Role Arrangements in Long-Term Heterosexual Relationships, it says that the typical social norms are changing and they are moving towards more equal gender roles. In the study, as it says in the title, it's heterosexual relationships, and they interviewed several husbands and wives, like several partners, and almost all of them said that they viewed a happier relationship when they had equal gender roles between the two partners. Again, Wayne follows this example, and he also, in all of his relationships, has very equal gender roles. He never implies that males should be the breadwinners or anything of the sort. And in both situations, he treats his partner in a very equal way to what you would expect of himself. So, lastly, Wayne's views on abortions. In a journal titled Exploring the Relationship Between Lay Theories of Gender and Attitudes to Abortion in the Context of a National Referendum on Abortion Policy, it says that there is a positive correlation to beliefs about gender roles and beliefs about abortion rights. Basically, just saying that the more conservative views somebody has about gender roles, the more likely they are to have conservative views about abortion rights. And it also says that men are often less likely to support abortion rights. Unlike the other two journals and topics I've just broken down, Wayne is the exception to this rule. In season 2 of Letterkenny, one of his girlfriends ends up calling him and telling him that she is pregnant. And this isn't really dealt with in season 2, because that was like the last thing that happened in the finale. So in the start of season 3, however, Wayne goes up to that girlfriend, and to paraphrase, they basically talk about the options they have, and she tells him she's going to get an abortion. And Wayne is very supportive of this. He basically says that it's her body, it's her choice. Whatever she ends up deciding to do, he's going to back her up on it. And while he didn't explicitly say that, it implies to me that Wayne is fairly pro-choice when it comes to abortion rights. So, as I said in the beginning, Wayne may seem like the definition of toxic masculinity with his frequent fighting and his tough guy demeanor, but he's actually a pretty open-minded and go with the flow kind of dude. So there we go. There's Wayne. And here are my sources.